Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! This occurred in September last year. I was making a routine lunch delivery to the hospital nearby. The customer didn't provide any delivery instructions other than to call when I arrived. I called and called, no reply. Waited and waited. In that instance, we leave the food in a safe place, in this case, at the admissions desk, and notify the customer. About 5 minutes later, I started getting furious texts from this person. "Where is my food? I told you where to bring it, you moron! Not to leave it there! This is all your fault, you're an idiot!" I apologized profusely despite her insistent lies that she said where to leave it, and her swearing at me. 5 minutes go by and I get notified that she claims she never received the food and left a negative rating. So I contacted support to address the rating, and since I was nearby, returned to the delivery location to find out what happened to the order. When I arrive, the admissions desk personnel tell me this individual came down in a huff cussing and took the food, and it's on camera. DoorDash is on with a customer who is texting that someone stole it and she refuses to pay for it. I knew that the order name was Russian. Unusual. DoorDash says if I can verify it was received, they will remove the rating. Admissions people notify an admin to come talk to me. The admin contacts hospital security, who speaks to me, then decides to go ask the nurse to pay for her order. They talk to her, but she refused. They say that they might be forced to notify the police, and she said, "Go ahead," to hospital security. Anywho, the police are contacted. I file a brief statement for theft of services, and the female detective reached out to me a few weeks later. I said, "Do you really think it's worth pursuing such a small amount?" And she reminded me of her vindictive texts and how she was offered multiple opportunities to avoid charges and she refused. She literally came after me, hard. My mind was instantly made up. The detective said she would go to her house first, but if she wasn't home, she'd arrest her at the hospital. It was misdemeanor fraud and something else. Then months went by, heard nothing back. Then got an email from the court on Tuesday asking for my address where to send a check for restitution, and she pled guilty. I, Sarah, was walking through the grocery store on a busy afternoon running some errands. I was walking down one of the aisles when I heard a commotion up ahead. As I got closer, I saw a disabled person in a wheelchair who appeared to be apologizing to a woman who was clearly angry. "I'm sorry, ma'am," the disabled person said. "I didn't mean to bump into your shopping cart." However, the woman, Karen, was not in a forgiving mood. She started yelling and pointing her finger in a disabled person's face. "Do you have any idea how much these groceries cost?" Karen screamed. "You're going to pay for this, you careless little brat." I was shocked and disturbed by Karen's behavior. I felt that I had to intervene and try to de-escalate the situation. I stepped forward and addressed Karen. "You need to stop this right now," I said firmly. "There is no need to talk to this person like this." Karen turned to me, surprised that someone had the audacity to confront her. "Excuse me?" she sneered. "Who do you think you are?" "I'm someone who believes in treating others with kindness and respect," I replied. "And you're not doing either of those things right now." Karen didn't like being told what to do. She started to lunge at me, but I was ready for her. I stepped to the side and decked her down with one swift punch. Karen hit the ground, stunned and dazed. The commotion had attracted the attention of other shoppers and the store manager, who ended up calling the police. When the police arrived, they took Karen into custody and asked for my statement. I explained what had happened and why I felt I had to intervene. The disabled person thanked me for coming to their rescue and expressed gratitude for my kindness and compassion. "Thank you so much," they said. "I don't know what would have happened if you weren't here." The incident made headlines in the local news and sparked the conversation about the importance of treating others with dignity and respect, regardless of their abilities or disabilities. People were shocked and appalled by Karen's behavior and expressed their support for me and the disabled person. I was kinda hailed as a hero for my actions, and my story was shared far and wide as an example of standing up for what is right. The outpouring of support from my community was overwhelming and humbling. Backstory: when I was 9, my mom met a man who, for the sake of the story, we will call Jay. Jay was an unremarkable man. He was a chef, and he was from New York, living in South Philadelphia at the time. My mom, being emotionally unstable, decided to give him a try after lots of past relationships not working out. Seriously, she has a bad taste in men, and I feel it's a good time to mention my dad is dead from a drug overdose. Philadelphia, man, drugs are everywhere. So my mom was desperate for someone to be that guy who is good for her and me. She gives Jay a chance, and out of nowhere, boom, Jay has cancer. Came out of the blue, and my mom's heartstrings were pulled by him, and she was attached to him for good. I was 9 at the time, so of course I was a stupid kid who never thought my mom could be wrong. Well, I didn't notice her getting black eyes, but my grandfather did. So one day at a corner store in my neighborhood, he decided to beat Jay black and blue. He was stuck on the couch for days, and looking back, it brings a smile to my face. But he convinced my mom that my grandmother, who was manipulative, manipulated my grandfather to beat him up, so we have to move. After an intervention was held, holy hell, I was there, it was wild. My mom had decided to move. We packed our things in our van, and I held my 90-pound Rottweiler on my lap, and we moved to Florida. Chapter 2: Florida. I'm gonna admit life kinda sucked here. For 5 years I was stuck in such a dumpster fire for a state with no family support. My mom was abused daily, and I was mostly mentally abused. I also lost my great-grandmother at this time, and I wanted to go back to Philly for the funeral, but Jay said no. Eventually, in 2021, my mom left Jay, and then the worst night of my life happened. Chapter 3: Halloween 2021. I was still in Florida, shocker, and I went trick-or-treating with a younger friend. At this point in time, my mom was paying for Jay's new apartment because she just wanted him gone. Well, he broke into our apartment, took my puppy for a walk, weird time to care about a dog while committing a crime, but hey, my dog had fun. And he smashed everything. My mom decided instead of calling the cops, she would confront him with me alone. So we went, and as a precaution, my mom had a knife on her. We went, and when we got there was a girl with Jay. A fight ensued, and I called 911. I also beat the everlasting the hell out of Jay. Unfortunately, my mom couldn't see that and thought Jay was winning, so she stabbed him. Non-lethal, his Fed got it. He didn't go to the hospital. So when police showed up, they gave a good look at my mom with choke marks from the fight and arrested her for assault and breaking and entering. Chapter 4: Leaving Florida and having a very Merry Christmas. Well, the trial came and went. My mother is off the hook, but she will be a felon until the completion of a program. So we left him in Florida, and we decided to move back north to New Jersey. I know my mom breaking up with Jay was due to me because I pushed her hard for it. Life continues, but November came around, and I received news that made me burst out in laughter. Jay's sister came forward and told us that he shot himself in the head. I even read his suicide note and everything. I ruined his relationship with my mom, and karma came back. Life goes on, and he dies unloved and alone. Edit. I do want to clear up one thing. My mother has mental issues, and she was diagnosed wrong. She was taking medicine that made her worse, not better. She's on track to get off her current medication and take new medication soon. Edit 2. I don't feel guilty about what happened. I actually feel angry that he's dead. I would rather have him live as a homeless bum with nothing in his life. Unfortunately, he took the easy way out, which was a bullet. But still, he's dead. So I get some comfort from that. So this happened yesterday, and I thought I would share this ridiculous entitlement. So I work as a parcel courier for a company that deals in internationally shipped packages. And I was working my route as normal and was about an hour into my route, and I was in particularly good mood. Until I reached an intersection with said road Karen. So for context, the street I was on is very odd. On one side of the road are residential houses and some buildings with businesses and apartments on the top floors. And on the other side was a state highway that has a lot of traffic coming off the highway, as well as cars coming from other streets to get on said highway, since it's one of the only points of entry unless you wanna take a detour. It is a big pain in the butt and the infrastructure is not ideal, but everyone knows what to do to ensure a quick and effective commute. So the intersection I mentioned is somewhat narrow due to all the snow that has accumulated. Road Karen is on a left turn lane at the front of traffic, and the semi-truck is making a left turn onto the street since he wanted to get on the highway. This is when the entitlements start. As I have said, the road is narrow due to the snow, and the semi couldn't turn unless Road Karen reversed. I saw this coming, but the semi-truck driver made the mistake of thinking this piece of trash would do anything a rational person would do and decided to make his turn. As expected, he couldn't complete his turn due to the Karen mobile. Every driver behind Karen started reversing because, you know, people got places to be, and the semi gotta go. I kid you not, there is about 15 feet of space for her to back up and allow this gentleman and his giant semi to complete his turn. What does Karen do? You guessed it. Nothing. She sits there, about 15 seconds pass, and the semi-driver gives her a couple of honks because at this point, it's too late for him to do anything. So now the semi and his trailer are blocking the intersection, and traffic is starting to build up from people coming on the highway and people trying to get on the highway. The guy honks his horn longer this time, and this degenerate POS puts her car in park and goes on her phone. Luckily, I didn't have to turn at that intersection and there was a way to maneuver around the semi at a green light, but it was extremely dangerous because the people turning left couldn't see us trying to pass. So I get to the front and the light turns red, leaving me side by side to Karen. I get out of my van pissed as I see her tapping away on her phone and knock on her window. She looks up at me and I yell and gesture to let her know that she has to back up. The truck has nowhere to go. Trailer trash granny keeps her windows rolled up. Start saying what I made out is, "I was here first," pointing and gesturing angrily to the ground. At this point, the semi-driver starts inching closer and closer to her to scare her to back off, but she doesn't budge. I yell at her this time. "He can't go anywhere. You have to back up. Traffic is completely blocked off here." She ignores me and I look up to the semi-driver, throw my hands up, and shrug my shoulders to let him know the witch ain't moving. The light turned green and I went on my way. I made a few more deliveries and about 10 to 15 minutes had passed since the start of this whole debacle. I went back to the street on the opposite side of the clock to see if it was resolved, and yep, you guessed it. Traffic was completely clogged and messed up. I didn't even see the highway, but I'd assume there was a line of cars trying to exit onto the street. Unfortunately, I didn't stick around and went back on my route, so I didn't see the conclusion to this idiotic situation, but I'm guessing the semi-driver called the cops. I wish I had to turn left at that intersection just to see the cops chew that toothless trailer trash Road Karen out. Please don't be like this person and consider every other person on the road. It's been over 24 hours since this happened, and I'm still fuming and baffled. Well, thank you guys for listening to my rant. It's currently ranging between 0 Celsius and about -5 Celsius where I live. Despite this not exactly being t-shirt weather, I have a colleague who constantly cracks open windows in random rooms at work and leaves. She does this in loo, in the office kitchen, in the meeting room, everywhere. She only works half a day, so she doesn't have to suffer the cold herself. She opens the windows, then takes off a few hours later, and someone else, often me, then comes into a room where your breath makes little clouds and has to deal with it. And of course, when she comes back next morning, all the rooms will be nice and cozy again, and she can restart her little mission to freeze us to our desks. I have tried to talk to her, of course, asked her to close the windows she opened after a few minutes, explained to her how unpleasant it is to be afraid that your teeth will chip from chattering while you wait for your tea water to cook. But to no avail. Her answer is usually something along the lines of, "I usually close the windows, of course. If I occasionally forget, then please do me a favor and close it yourself and just turn up the heater a bit." Since to me this problem isn't worth the hassle to take it to our boss, I just went around closing her damn windows every day, even specifically making rounds for that. Until this week. She and I usually don't have one-on-one meetings due to our work being pretty different, and any bigger meetings are over video calls in our company. But this week we did have something to talk about and agreed to meet Wednesday at 8:30. At the meeting time, she came knocking and expected to come into my office, but I shared it with a co-worker and told her that the co-worker needed quiet time and that the meeting room was empty. At this point, you can probably guess that when making my window closing rounds the day before, I left the meeting room alone. You can also probably guess that I made sure to wear some extra warm clothes to work that day, and you don't even need to guess that I made sure the meeting took longer than necessary, about 15 minutes, and that I was ignoring her signs of growing discomfort while I noticeably dragged my feet. Oh no, not necessary to send me an email, just tell me and I will write it down right now. No, really, writing it down helps me think. Wait, this pen is garbage, I'll get a new one. Didn't they used to have those good black pens just a few months ago? Haven't seen them since. But maybe one of them just got forgotten in one of these drawers here. Ah no, that's a disappointment. Well, never mind, I'll just take one of these. Maybe after our meeting, I'll ask the front office if they have more. Anyway, please continue. This happened when I worked at the post office years ago. I was one of about 40 mechanics and electronic technicians on the 3 p.m. to 11:30 shift, whose job it was to fix the machines used to process mail. It was a huge facility with thousands of people working there. This may not seem believable today, but first-class mail had to be received, processed, and shipped out within 24 hours. Letters and packages start arriving in the afternoon. Sacks of letters and packages are placed on conveyor belts, stamped mail is cancelled, all mail is sorted on machines, placed in trays for shipment to their destination, and placed on trucks for shipment directly to the destination post office or the airport. Mail came between 3 p.m. and 8 p.m. and went out around 5 a.m., up to 2.5 million stamped letters per day during Christmas, but usually around 600k plus metered mail and parcels every single weekday. Our job was basically to sit around, wait for something to break, and fix it as soon as possible so it would run to the end of the shift. The day shift could do a more permanent fix if necessary. That was our job. Wait for some machinery to break and fix it. We sat in small groups near our machines and read, gossiped, or did whatever. One day, some bigwig saw us and didn't like us sitting around doing nothing. Word came from on high and we were told to patrol our areas and fix the broken equipment. Our chains were taken away so we could not sit down. Now comes the malicious compliance. We did as we were told. We patrolled the building. If anyone saw something broken, we shut down the equipment and fixed it. According to safety regulations, we were required to lock out the power source with our individual padlocks and rope off the area. Hey, you 50 clerks, you need to move from under this conveyor belt so we can replace it. Of course, that disables part of the 6-mile-long system, so productivity is lost. Letter sorting machines with 14 clerks are shut down for minor repairs. Stamp cancelling machines? The same. Productivity slumped and hundreds of clerks were required to work overtime that night in the morning to make up for equipment being shut down for repairs. I'm sure the first night it cost tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars in overtime. After 3 days, our chairs returned and it was business as usual. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.